to be different in any way, big or small, when you're a young person, it's like the most criminal feeling.
Yeah. My name is Jess Simnett. I am current COO of Alliance Football Club, private academy here in Dubai. I joined Alliance 2.5 years ago now, fresh off the plane from the English FA. My first ever word, to my mum's disgrace, was Derby County, and my dad's like so proud of it. So I think probably like my dad was a big influence. Like I started playing like maybe 6, 7 in a boys team. Okay. So back then there was no girls teams. If you played football as a female, you're like one of few. I was told that you need to find a girls team. So I went and played at Derby County, but within the space of like 3 years, I experienced like ill health as a kid. And I remember, I think it was like 13, 14 years old, a doctor said to me that if you want to get better, you have to stop playing football.
How important is that connection to you, especially when you felt like it was fading away when you couldn't play?
That's all I ever knew. In that moment, I can picture the doctor's like consultant's room. My mum was in there, the nurse Lily. I can see it, I can feel it. But in that moment, I suppose it was my identity that got completely thrown around and completely questioned. I had to find that belonging again and feel part of something, and that's probably why I went straight into coaching. I was always 100 miles an hour, like wanting to do everything or say yes to everything or be the best, and when something completely takes you off track, you have to go back and look at the little things. And
how did going to Dubai come about? Because that's a big change.
I had that sense of belonging immediately. I thought this is different here. It feels like a family. There was more to it than just football. When you look back, there's always trauma in people's life at certain points, and it's not a bad thing, but it's then how you build yourself out of that.
What kind of challenges do you think you and your colleagues there face with that big exposure, especially like from a safeguarding perspective as well, with it being children?
You have different priorities. My number one goal always was to be national head coach. Well, now, whether or not that was going to be achievable or not, I'm not sure. But I think when I had my daughter, it completely went out the window because I had a decision to make. Like, do you want to be away from home this much, or do you want to be present as a mother? And like, there was only one winner at that point.
Yes, people, welcome back to the Life in Sport podcast. Oh, I started a little bit there. But yeah, we're out here again for another episode in Dubai. Really hot country, lots of nice buildings. But yeah, so today I bring with me an established coach and person in the space of football in the UK and now the UAE, whom I will let introduce themselves.
Thank you, Tariq, and thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. My name is Jess Simnett. I am current COO of Alliance Football Club, private academy here in Dubai. I joined Alliance 2.5 years ago now, fresh off the plane from the English FA.
Okay, so I like to start with a little bit of reflection. So I've been doing it one way with all my guests, but I'm going to slightly change it up. So it's name one good thing that's happened this week. Whether it's today, this week.
I like that. Do you know what, Tariq? It was meeting you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, serious. That event was top, wasn't it? Like the event was really good.
Oh, wait, before I forgot to say, this episode is actually sponsored by Work in Football. So Work in Football is a community that helps you get employed and gain the skills to work in football. So yeah, big shout out to James Cox. I should have started with that. But yes, we met at the Work in Football event.
Yeah, so, and I think it's not cliche to say it, but that event was like really, really empowering and linked a lot of people from different backgrounds, different experiences, and brought everyone into the same room. So yeah, that's how we've met, and look, this is where we are now.
Yeah, no, it was such a great event, and big shout out to James, because I know he faced a lot of challenges putting it together, but he smashed it out of the park.
Pulled it
so
off.
Yeah, big you up, James. But yeah, no, it was very empowering. Lots of perspectives. I think it was a room full of knowledge and experience. And when you have access to that, which isn't very often, all in one go, you kind of want to soak all that in, don't you? Just learn, have little conversations. But then this is a conversation I've been having with a few people recently about networking. And I feel like the word networking is a little bit, I might have said it before in previous episodes, but I'll say it now. I think the word networking is a little bit intimidating and corporate for an outsider.
Yeah.
I feel like it just sounds like, oh, let's make connections. But I see it as so much more than that. I see it as especially in the event the other night, it's a, get to know, hello, how are you? Build a genuine connection with someone.
Yeah.
Have those conversations, learn about others. What do you think? Would you?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you used the word corporate, because before you even said it, I thought that's how I would perceive networking. It's almost like you're forced together in a setting that's almost manufactured, whereas actually we're all connected by football. We're all in the room for the same reason, and it can be quite organic and natural. So I suppose it's how you set that environment up and how it's framed. I think James did a great job the other day. And yeah, like we've found it useful, and I'm sure like many others that were there would.
Yeah, 100%. So let's dive into you. So let's talk a little about where your passion for football stemmed from, and we'll go from there.
God, years back, I think. Like I was actually mapping out my journey literally this week. I started off playing football very young, like probably 3, 4, 5 years old as a little girl. My first ever word, to my mum's disgrace, was Derby County, and my dad's like so proud of it. So I think probably like my dad was a big influence. Like he would play football with me outside in the garden. He would take me to football, and I started playing really early. And I used to go with him to the games at Derby at baseball ground years back.
Was that Pride Park, or is that Pride
no?
Park
So before Pride Park,
Okay.
it was baseball ground. We had season ticket we were season ticket holders then. I don't think we followed that through at Pride Park. Stuff happened along the way maybe, and then my football playing career took over, and I was probably playing every weekend, every evening and whatnot. So yeah, I started playing like maybe 6, 7 in a boys team. Okay. So back then there was no girls teams. If you played football as a female, you're like one of few. Yeah,
it was always like, and it's only recently that it's been established more in the grassroots level, female football, and a big thanks to that is like the Lionesses doing well in the Euros and in the World Cup a few years before that. So yeah, no, it is crazy. So football, live, breathe, watch.
Yeah, I always joke and say like it's literally all I know, but obviously it's not. It's the vehicle that is like the golden thread that's run right the way through my entire life and entire career.
So I think what people from the outside, because I feel like I love football as well, right? And I feel like this is an angle that I really want to hit home for people that don't like football. I'm not saying go out there and watch football and like football is great. It's not. It depends on what you're shown from young and how your mind is shaped as you grow up. But I feel like with a lot of sports, but particularly football, it's that connection of your family. Your dad got you to support your team. That's usually the traditional route. Your cousins support this team. Do you know what I mean? Like my auntie got me to support my team.
Who do you
support? To the ground. I support Sevilla. So
nice. It's different.
Yeah, no English team. I love the Premier League, but no English team. Yeah. But it's that family connection to the football 100%. Team, and like I know it's just football. Like you don't get affected like too much if your team loses, but it's like a part of your identity when you grow up.
100%.
Right? And
it means something to you, doesn't it?
Exactly, and I feel like that's such an important takeaway I want people to understand. Not like go start watching football and it will form part of your identity, but how much it connects you to, whether it connects you to your family or whether it's you're from abroad and no one likes football, but it connects you to a community, whether it's you're playing, whether it's you're supporting a team, whether it's you're working. It's a big connector.
Like a sense of belonging you have from being part of that community, I think.
Of course.
Yeah.
And is that something you discovered early, that sense of belonging?
Yeah, I think so. But obviously there's pros and cons to that because when I was younger, so I played from 7 to 10 with boys, and then at 10 I had to go and play with the girls. I was told that you need to find a girls team. So I went and played at Derby County, but within the space of like 3 years, I experienced like ill health as a kid, and I remember, I think it was like 13, 14 years old, a doctor said to me that if you want to get better, you have to stop playing football.
Wow.
So you can imagine, like, if that's all I ever knew, in that moment, I can picture the doctor's like consultant's room. My mum was in there, the nurse Lily. I can see it, I can feel it. But in that moment, I suppose it was my identity that got completely thrown around and completely questioned.
Do not get me started on identity.
But
No,
you mentioned
true.
it, and I thought that's what it was, because football was such a huge part of my life, and in that split second, it was just taken away.
Yeah, I mean, I always believe, and we talked a bit about this in the event, about our identity being, I like to think of it as a pie chart. It's probably a lot more complex than a pie chart, but, you know, little parts of, maybe more of like a tree, branches. You got you, and then you might have work Jess, you might have mother Jess, you might have daughter Jess, sister Jess, but then you got Jess that likes to watch TV, Jess that likes football, Jess football coach. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like football, obviously some aspects of it, and when we're young, I think it's normal that like the things that we like can take up more space.
Yeah, 100%.
And then obviously with that being like ripped out, that must have, I mean, I can't even imagine how that felt. Like,
I feel like I went through a massive grieving process, which at the time you wouldn't realise, because I was 13, 14 years old, but you have to like find yourself almost. So yeah, it takes a long time.
Finding yourself at that age where, like, in my experience and experience of like the young people I've worked with, part of finding yourself is feeling a part of something and being the same as your peers.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, to be different in any way, big or small, when you're a young person, it's like the most criminal feeling.
Yeah. I think, and that's it for me. I had to find that belonging again and feel part of something. And that's probably why I went straight into coaching. So I started coaching at 15.
That's impressive. That's really young. But how because I started doing a little bit of coaching at 16, but I was like, it was more like a voluntary. I had to do it, but it's good work experience. But like I sort of started it because I had to. But what motivated you to start it and to?
I think it was the first way for me to stay in and around my club, and I was very fortunate to have somebody who was like an enabler for me. The chairman of the club at the time gave me an opportunity, and like, don't get me wrong, I didn't go in at 16 to like my first paid coaching role, but I was doing the voluntary hours, helping the little ones, U9s, U10s, U11s, and just picking up cones, putting down cones, collecting balls in, you know, like the basic stuff that you have to sort of start somewhere. And it helped me stay connected to the game, stay connected to my friends and that club that I felt a part of.
How important is that connection to you, especially when it was you felt like it was fading away when you couldn't play?
Yeah, I think it's part of that, I don't want to say healing process, but it's part of your well-being, isn't it? It's like a massive part of how okay you are. And I think it helped me through my recovery of getting better. If I didn't have football, I don't know what I would have done. Like, sounds mad, but I was a little terror sometimes as a kid, and if I got grounded, I would literally think, "Well, that means I can't go football. I need to find a way." And I would literally get out the house, get my bike, ride up the road to football, and my mum would be there waiting for me, like, "What are you doing?" But that's how much it mattered. Like, I wanted to be there no matter what. And then, when I was in that recovery period, then it was a lifeline almost.
Yeah. It's always like a new lease of life, being a part of something and finding something. And I think that this is why I do this show, because I think people don't understand the impact that sport can have on you if you're a part of it. And what you're doing, what you're telling me really epitomizes it from such an early stage in your life. So if we move forward down your timeline so you coaching, picking up coins, voluntary, when did it progress to something a bit more?
I think I did my FA level 2, maybe about 18, 19 years old. and the tutor of that course was the technical director at Derby County Centre of Excellence. So I remember him approaching me after the course and saying, would you be interested in a role with us? And it was my first ever paid coaching role. So I went from that into, I was working voluntary at the time, like I say, just picking up the cones and whatnot with my local team at the grassroots section of the club. But then that opportunity came up to work with the Centre of Excellence. So yeah, that was where it started, I suppose.
Okay. So Centre of Excellence, how long were you doing that for?
A few years, and I did it whilst I was at university. So I went to uni, I went a little bit late because I wasn't obviously too well before that. So I went in when I was 21 to 24. Okay. And if I'm really honest, I used to skip classes and skip lectures just so I could go to coach in the evening or in wherever with my club. I think I was so dedicated to being the best coach I could be that I was committed to being there no matter what.
Was what you were studying anything to do with coaching?
Yeah, it was. But, you know, I studied sport, coaching, sport, physical education and coaching science.
Okay.
But you sat in a lecture theatre, like listening to someone speak for 2 hours. It's not relevant to an extent. So, yeah, I just wanted to be on the grass.
Yeah, no, of course. You want that hands-on experience. Yeah. You wanna be feeling it, not listening to about associative stage or whatever of learning.
But like you're taught how to coach.
Yeah.
But not in the way that they are that you're supposed to coach.
I mean, the coaching philosophy is very malleable. It's what you learn from this person, what you learn from that person, what you learn from trying and not failing. Failing's a strong word, but trying and mistaking maybe.
Yeah. And you take the bits you like, you throw away the bits you don't.
And then especially the last part, but most important is the relationships you build with the players you're coaching or working with as well. That probably forms part of how you do other things, and it's the basis of this is how I think they'll learn, this is how I think they won't learn. So sitting in a lecture hall is just. I mean, I'm talking a lot. So if you don't agree, just say.
No, I wholeheartely agree. Like, I think you have to get out there and like learn your trade, learn your craft, and that's on the grass as much and as often as you can do is be out there on the grass, especially in the younger years when you're first starting out.
So you see, obviously, when you played in your young days, you were the only girl until like under 10s or whatever, but you were predominantly around the time you played and after that as well. It was always that there was always one girl in the team sort of thing. And was it the same when you were getting your coaching badges?
Yeah. I remember I was 16. I did my FA level 1, like 16-year-old girl in a room full of grown adults, men, like probably a group of 30 men. Probably like my dad's age or something, and that it just became the norm. Like I think level 2 I was one of 2 girls. UEFA A license. Well, to be fair, my UEFA B license was the first female game specific UEFA B. Yeah, I did it at David Beckham Soccer Academy in London, which was pretty cool. And it's the first time ever that I felt like it was actually applicable to our setting and our environment. But then I went and did my A license. I think I was one of 3 women on there out of maybe 40 candidates.
That's crazy. And as well, I previously spoke to a football coach on the show called Temisan Williams, and he's been around he's been around, like, let's just say. But what I learned from him is how competitive it is to actually get into those courses these days. Application, your hours, you could get rejected and have to wait a year, sort of thing. Was it like that? Was it like that at the time you did it as well? Was things changed a bit?
I think it's probably changed recently. I think the challenge is there's a lot of initiatives, and there was as I was growing up for young females. So I know that with my A license, there was an initiative to incentivise and get more women involved. However, you can't go on to an A license unless you've got credibility and you've earned it. So if you get onto that course, you know that you deserve it, like you've done well. And I was fortunate to have a platform to be able to access the course that I needed.
Yeah, nice. it's a tough world out there with the coaching, and even more so at the time you were coaching and you were the only female. Did you ever, if we compare like when you did your level 1, how did you feel being the only female in that course? Was it?
I don't know. I don't know if I recognised it at the time. Maybe I was more of a young, naive 16-year-old, and I probably felt nervous. I probably felt like, whoa, what's this? But I loved every part of it. So I think it's just I was driven to do it, and I knew that as soon as I was old enough, I wanted to be on it. Put myself in that setting. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but you get used to it. And often I think females, you're underestimated. And I thrive off that. I love it because then you can prove them wrong. So in every setting, I don't think I truly appreciated it until later. Now, like when I look back and I think, yeah, you were like one of very few at the time, and now I think it's massively changed. Like, there's a lot more female coaches around. Obviously, a hell of a lot more female players, but the game is changing. It looks different now.
When you decided that coaching was what you wanted to do, and what was your why? Okay, obviously you talked about being a part of something.
Yeah.
But as a career, what was your why, and what were your long-term goals in the early days?
Yeah. Do you know, there's a picture of me from a Derby County match day programme, and I'm probably like 10, 11 years old. And they questioned, like we were, you know, we have your team photos on the pitch, it was like the highlight of the year. They asked all my teammates a list of questions, like what's your hobbies, like all different stuff, who do you support? And the last one was, what do you want to be when you grow up? And everybody in my team said, I want to play for England. And for some reason, because this was before I was ill, for some reason I said I want to coach for England. And I was like 10, 11.
Wow.
And I think it must have just always been there. So that was my first thing. Like, I wanted to coach for England. I set myself like 3 little targets when I was...
At 10, 11?
No, not at 10, 11. That would be impressive, wouldn't it?
No. It's impressive if you do it at all.
Yeah, no, I was a little bit older. I think maybe when I was like at uni or something, or just going through my first coaching badges. But the first one was I wanted to work for the FA. That was like a non-negotiable. That's what I wanted to do. Second was I wanted to go to work with the 3 lions on my chest every day. And then the third was I wanted to sing the national anthem as part of my job. And those 3 were like significant milestones for me, because obviously you work for the FA. I worked with the FA skills program, so with 5 to 11-year-olds. When I was in that role, the England badge was on my arm. On my chest was like FA Little Skills or something, the program that we work for. And then my first promotion within the FA, the England badge went to my chest, and I thought, right, tick 1. Yeah. And I thought that was like a huge milestone. And then I'll never forget, like the first time I got an email to be called up as assistant coach on an England camp.
Wow. And
that was a surreal moment where I thought, right, this is the next tick towards them goals.
That's crazy. So let's talk through your journey in the FA, and obviously you're a little bit more established in how you do things, and you've got a bit more experience. How did you approach that at that point in your life?
In what sense?
In sense of the job, did you have a bit of imposter syndrome? Did you do things
always.
differently?
Yeah, always. I think my whole career, you have imposter syndrome. You never feel good enough. But then I think if you have that mentality, you'll always strive to be better, or it's like a growth mindset. If you think you're good already, you're going to go wrong somewhere. Nobody's a finished article, and there's always stuff to learn and improve from. So I was in and around some fantastic people, some great coaches, and every step of the way, I think I felt like little Jess, that 10-year-old that wrote, I want to be a coach for England.
That's amazing. And obviously, let's talk about that feeling. You get the promotion, and you achieve that goal of from sleeve to chest. Like, talk me through that. Talk me through the process of getting there, but talk me through the feeling that you felt when you got that email and you felt you could tick that lofty goal.
I feel like it's been a journey of sacrifice, like every step of the way. Like you don't get those things unless you go out of your way to make, not necessarily to make it happen, but to do the little things every day consistently that you probably don't realise are contributing towards that bigger goal. I used to, when I worked in the first job with the FA Skills Programme, I was from Derby, I grew up in Derby, and the job was the first job I had out of university. There was one in the country, only one available, and for years I'd said that's the job I want. Like when I leave uni, that's what I want to do. And I got it, but I had to move to Hertfordshire. So I travelled, I relocated straight out of university, set up in Hertfordshire on my own, hated every second of it. I had a little box room in Stevenage. And I did that for like 6 months or so. And then I thought, I want to be back home. I'll drive backwards and forward. So I used to leave at like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning on Monday, ran my week full of work, stay in a hotel, and then drive hundreds of miles back. So there was sacrifice. There was cost a lot of money to do it. And I was young, naive and stupid at the time. And I remember when I got offered the first job, I was like, yeah, I'll do it for anything. Like, I just want to do it. And then like later down the line, the sacrifice obviously paid off because I went into the role that I wanted to be in longer term. One of my key role models, Gemma Granger, she was doing it before. I think she's now head coach of Norway. But I was lucky enough to then take her role and then work with her on England camps a little bit later down the line. But that feeling of, I'd worked 3 years in the first role, working with every stage of the pathway, so young kids, educating teachers, skill-centred advanced, kids that had just started playing football, PE in schools. So built up like an experience base, like a foundation. And then to transition from that to the next step, I thought, why me? Why are they picking me? I didn't feel good enough in that moment. But within a space of 12 months to 24 months, you add to your toolbox and then you grow in confidence. And it takes time. But like I said, every step of that journey, every step of the way, I felt imposter syndrome. And that moment when I received the email to say, do you want to be assistant coach to Marianne Spacey with the under 23s? I thought, whoa. Obviously, yeah, of course I do, but inside I'm absolutely breaking it.
It's like a lot of emotions, right? Yeah. Excitement, but nervousness. I like to think of them as two sides of the same coin, somewhat, before maybe more bigger experts on emotions come at me, but that's crazy. And to know that all the little things you did, all the big things you did, just all culminated into another tick in your list for free.
And I think along the way, you, like that moment, obviously you're scared, but you have to dive right into that fear in order to grow. And I think there's been pivotal moments throughout my career where you have to get used to being uncomfortable very often.
Because obviously this is at this point, this is like the dream from around university times, and you've achieved it. What kind of new things did you have to face, and what kind of new challenges did you face once you were at the ideal place?
Well, to be honest, prior to that, I think I took that job maybe in 2017, but a year or so prior to that, I had a bad car accident. So a guy fell asleep at the wheel and his car hit mine head on, and it completely floored me. Like, wow. I remember for a year I didn't coach at all. I didn't want to leave the house. Like I would sit in the house with the curtains shut, terrified. So this is real deep now, but I had to literally rebuild myself from that. I don't even know what it was, but like extreme trauma, psychologically, physically, to then get myself back to a point where the following year, after a year of being out, I taught myself to get back on the grass, get back in and around the right people, rebuild myself to then be on my A license and get that opportunity with the England under 23s. So there's key moments again, like the first of, I wasn't too well as a kid, and then later on when I think I was 26, I had that car accident. I think there's always, when you look back, there's always trauma in people's life at certain points, and it's not a bad thing, but it's then how you build yourself out of that. And I think that's why I'm where I am now, and it shaped my journey, I think.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and I 100% agree with you. There's always going to be some kind of trauma, some kind of setback, big or small, throughout your whole life. They're always going to be there.
Everyone has it, right?
It's just how it's that, them Rocky quotes.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And the fact you pulled yourself out of that, were there any small factors? What kind of small factors helped you with that? What kind of small things?
With the rebuild or with
the rebuild?
I think accepting where you are. I was always 100 miles an hour, like wanting to do everything or say yes to everything or be the best. And when something completely takes you off track, you have to go back and look at the little things, and it's all those little things and being consistent with the little things, or you learn like what matters most. At the end of the day, football's just a game, right? Everyone loves it, and it becomes sometimes life or death.
Yeah.
But it's not, and I think that's where that kept me grounded.
Okay, this is gonna sound a bit deeper, but like, because we're talking two setbacks that are out of your control at two complete different stages in your life, and maybe I might be asking a lot of you to dive back, but in terms of how would you compare accepting back when you were a child and comparing it to accepting when you're an adult, like through
it's
the two
completely
things?
different. Yeah, when you're a kid, you fight it. I think that was part of the problem. I fought it, which probably made me worse. Whereas the second time, it's like the first time, you don't know what's going on. There's a lot of questions, you don't understand it. And I think it probably generated a lot of anger, like an emotion that I was probably full of as a kid, because I didn't get it. You don't have enough intel, do you, at that age
No, of course not.
to sort of rationalize it and understand. Then when something happens again, I felt like I took a drone view. So you're like watching yourself go through it, but pep talking yourself through it at the same time. And it's not easy, but you're better for the first setback and the first trauma, and you have more tools to deal with it. And then I think now, like, so there's probably a lot more, I don't know. But like now I'm at a point where I don't think anything could faze me.
No, and that's the great thing about experience, right? Good and bad. You just learn to move forward in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's So I'm taking a lot in, and I'm trying to navigate
I've
this
like
nicely.
thrown some curveballs at you, I know.
I
So
throw all the curveballs though. I like the curveballs. I like coming into conversations, and I set out an initial plan. I wouldn't call it a plan. I'd call it like let's talk about topic. Maybe I'm giving away my secrets, but I think these are 4 or 5 areas I want to talk about. And then when we're in one area, and then there's something that I wouldn't have expected to come out of that area, then it provides something new. I love it, because it takes things in a new direction that excites me, and we delve more into the personal, and I'm all about the personal. So as long as people are comfortable, I'm not here.
Yeah,
I'm not like the paparazzi. But yeah, so let's talk about so getting that email saying you were accepted, having to deal with what you dealt with, that probably made the emotion even heavier.
Yeah. I can't think back and think what the time frame was. Maybe like a year, 18 months, something like that. There's a few silly moments on that. I tell some of my colleagues, like younger coaches, I went on the first England camp, and I remember Marianne saying to me, "Oh, can you deliver this?" And it was a basic passing practice. And I remember being on camp, over-analysing this practice that I had to deliver to the nth degree, to the point where I'd got in my own head. I just felt so anxious. I probably didn't sleep all week. But I think everyone must go through that at some point, and I think I did probably a few things that were stupid, and I look back and think, oh gosh, Jess, what were you doing? But then you evolve from it, don't you? And if you're comfortable with feeling like that, I probably wasn't at the time, but now I look back and laugh at myself. But it's all part of your journey, and I don't think, the year I had before probably helped, but it's all growth and it's all improvements.
So if we move forward so how long were you with the under 20?
So I did one camp with the 23s, and then that was in the summer. We went to Sweden, and then I started with, I think it was under 16s in September. Okay. So I did a season with the 16s, and then, or maybe 15s, and then 16s and 15s. So yeah, I did like 3 seasons with England teams.
Okay, and how important is that balance as person to coach to lover of football? How important was that work to life balance, and how did you manage around it?
I think when I only had me to think about, it was easy because I put everything into football and into coaching and my job, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. I was proud to go to work and do what I did. It changed obviously when I had a family, like when I got married and then I had my daughter. A lot of things changed because then you have different priorities. My number one goal always was to be a national head coach. Well, now whether or not that was going to be achievable or not, I'm not sure. But I think when I had my daughter, it completely went out the window because I had a decision to make. Like, do you want to be away from home this much, or do you want to be present as a mother? And like, there was only one winner at that point.
Of course, and it kind of goes back to the identity point I made.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's forever evolving. You go from wife, daughter, this, suddenly you're a wife, suddenly you're a daughter, a mother, and then there's more things to think about and more aspects of yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of like parking things to the side. How did that compromise feel? Was there like the little girl in you a bit upset that you were parking something? Was there like
100%? Yeah. Again, it's like a grieving process.
Yeah.
Because you think the minute you have kids, it's different. Like, your life belongs to them. It's not yours anymore.
100%.
And it changes overnight. No one can ever prepare you for that. And it's the best thing in the world. But prior to that, you don't realize what you're leaving behind. So you make a decision, and then that life you knew before is never coming back again. So you have to mold, you have to adapt, and you have to grow with it again. But it was a challenging. It's an acceptance thing again. It was a challenging decision, not to make because I knew I wanted to do it, but the consequence of that decision was leaving that behind.
And the letting go of it is tough, but even when it is for the greater good, you're still gonna feel that. I wish I could do everything.
And I think hopefully, like with changes in the game and the way that things are evolving, that won't be the case for every new mother in years to come. I think it's just my journey wherever I've been at that point, and there's others that have had different paths and they've gone on to do both. It was just my biggest priority in that moment was her, and that meant obviously not doing what I was doing prior to.
So let's talk about Dubai. Mm-hmm. So how did going to Dubai come about? Because that's a big change. And it was, I'd been on maternity leave for a year and I came back into the FA, and I just, because I changed a lot. Like, I changed in that year and I just needed something different. Somebody approached me to come out and visit a club here. It didn't work out, thankfully not. I think I swerved the bullet there. But I ended up quite fortunate through someone that I knew in coming to visit Alliance. And that was when I was there. I stayed for like 5 days, visited each day, and I had that sense of belonging immediately. I thought, this is different here. It feels like a family. There was more to it than just football, but it was a project. It was something that you could really have impact on, and it was attractive for me because I'd only ever
I've worked in a big organisation, obviously a national governing body, and it's completely different to then coming out to somewhere that it needs a lot more than where it's currently at.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Alliance and like the stuff they do. I find it really wholesome and really unique in terms of the social media following. What kind of challenges do you think you and your colleagues there face with that big exposure, especially like from a safeguarding perspective as well, with it being children?
Yeah, there's pros and cons. So the massive pro to the exposure in the audience is it's awareness, like it attracts players. Often we get a lot of players that know about us before they come to Dubai, and Dubai is obviously quite transitional where kids come and go, and we get a lot of people from overseas that are relocating to Dubai and they're looking for a club and they already know about Alliance. Likewise, we'll travel to UK or wherever we go on tour each year, and when we go, like, kids know who we are, like kids know Alliance, and that's just from the social media platforms, which is really nice, and it is wholesome. Like they feel connected to us without being in Dubai and without being at the club, which is nice. There are obviously a lot of challenges that go with that internally in Dubai, and with the kids. Like they at the younger ages, they love it. They want to be all over it. When they start to get to like 13, 14, 15, and a little bit older, I think they feel like, oh, I'm not sure about this anymore, because they're in and around their peers at school, and maybe they're getting questioned at school, or, oh, you're on TikTok, and this, that, and the other. So, yeah, I think it changes, and then obviously that's challenging for the staff internally to have to manage. But it gives a club a platform. It gives the players a platform, but obviously they're only kids, so we have to try and safeguard them along the way, and it can be difficult. Because we can't control the outside, and it can be quite harsh. But we do our best, and yeah, like we try and use it to our advantage. But it's difficult because obviously like the following is huge, and that comes with positive exposure, but also negative exposure.
I know. Yeah, it's a conversation I had recently. Is that with social media, if we're in a room with 100 people and 90 of them say you're great, and 10% of them say you're not great, you're not going to hear the negative. Yeah. But in social media, the 10% is magnified a lot more.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like it's
yeah.
So obviously you started there as heading up the girls football program. What drew you to that?
I think that's where I built my experience with the FA. Like I worked with the England Women's Talent Pathway, and when I went to look at the girls section at Alliance, it was in its infancy. Like the girl that was in the role before me, she'd done a fantastic job. I think she'd built it up to like 60, 70 players, and they were spread across like three different groups: mixed age, mixed ability, and there's some great kids there, like really great kids. But the club had an ambition to have a senior women's team and build a full pathway for girls. So for me, that was a project that was really appealing because it was close to my heart. It's what I had experience in, and I thought I could add a lot of value.
Of course. And how would you compare the?
You're going to ask me about the level?
No. Okay. No. It's kids. Like it's we're talking FA and we're talking Dubai. Yeah. I mean, I think like it's going to be a mixed bag there compared to FA. How would you compare like the landscape and of women's football, grassroots football in Dubai compared to the UK when you first got here?
When I first came, I noticed pretty quickly that there was less than a handful of clubs that had girls provision, and you're often playing against the same teams week in, week out. I think there was like four teams in our league, and there was some good stuff going on, but it was in its infancy again. And I think Alliance had quite a strong presence already. But then in the last 2 years, we've shaped a full girls pathway now. So we have like U9s to U18. And we did have a senior women's team. So we built a senior women's team from like a youth team. So we had U17s, U18s, and then it went on to be our senior women's. we drafted in some actual senior players as well, and we finished second in the National League.
Wow.
So it didn't happen overnight. It took maybe 18 months to 2 years to build and create. But now, in that space of time, there's so many more clubs doing the same, which is great to see. Like nearly every club now has girls provision or girls teams. They're all at different stages, and that's absolutely fine. But if you don't have a girls team now, like you got to play catch up, because it's come on massively in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, I think the women's game, grassroots, professionally, UAE, Europe, they're all like on an upward trajectory. Obviously in different stages of their development, but nonetheless,
it's on the rise.
It's on the rise. And it's wonderful to see. Because obviously, I think a lot of the stigma was trying to get the women's game to kind of catch up to the men's game. And I think it's doing that in its own respect. But I think at the same time, if we're talking like a 50 years of football being illegal in the UK anyway, and stuff like that, I mean that's a lot of time to lose to. But I feel like it's become more of a, rather than the men's are here and the women's are here, it's become the men are here, but the women's are like
parallel.
Not parallel, but like the direction is complete. The direction and it's becoming its own thing rather than
100%.
rather than the female version of a sport. It's becoming its own thing.
It's got its own identity.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, and it's being treated now in its own entity. It doesn't want to be the men's game.
Exactly.
It's almost two different sports. It's one sport, but it just looks different here, and I think that's how it should be. Like obviously we want it. It's just football. Like no matter who's playing it, it's football. It doesn't matter if you're 70 years old or 7 years old. If you're male or female, it doesn't matter. But it is carving its own identity, which is powerful. And then you see the traction, and you see the numbers in participation rise, and I think that will only grow and it'll only continue. Yeah. And I think you used the word stigma. Like we need to continue to break the stigma attached to women playing football, because we're playing football. We've been playing it for more than 50 years. So people just got to get used to it.
Yeah, and I just, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges young girls face when it comes to playing football now that you've experienced as a coach?
It was always, for me, it was like opportunity. Like, were there opportunities to play? Did you have access to the same things that the boys did? When I was a kid, like in PE, you couldn't play football. It was just boys. I'd have to play netball. And now I hate netball because of it. Netball was a great sport, but I don't feel like that because I wanted to play football, and you were always told no. I think it's less like that now. So there's more equality around what they have access to and what opportunities are surrounding them.
Okay, so moving a little bit forward, obviously you were heading up the program. You're probably coming with sorts of different plans, projects of how to implement your strategies and whatnot. How did it go from, and obviously you were on the pitch as well, I assume.
Yeah, up until this season.
So
yeah,
how
last year.
How did it go? How was that transition of, you were always Jess who wanted to be the coach, you became the coach, you achieved your goals and things like that, and you had an impact. How was it from being what you always wanted to be to taking a step back? You're still involved, but you're taking a step back.
It's hard.
What was that like?
It was the right time for me. I think I'd built a skill set that allowed me to come off the grass and have maybe a bit more impact, and then give back to younger coaches who are like carving their way, and staff members. And I think when you're on the grass, you can affect the players. Of course you can. When you're off the grass and you're working operationally, like I'm running the club now, you can impact a lot more people, whether it's players, parents, key stakeholders, the game in general. And I think that it was that for me. Like I wanted to have more of an impact. It's bigger than just football. It's football connects people, like we say.
Of course.
So there's more that you can do with that connection. more powerful, like in society. You can change things. You can really use it to have massive impact, and not just within one space and one setting, but across a region, across a country, across the globe.
So if we talk a little bit about your initial goals, your first 3 goals you made at 18, 19, you achieved them, you work, you get the role, you move to you have your transitional stuff, you move to Dubai. What would your 3 goals, or however many more or less, be now that you have achieved certain aspects of, you achieve aspects of it when you're young? How would you compare that to what kind of goals you might have now?
Yeah, it's very different now. So I think when I was setting out the goals when I was younger, it was all about me personally, which I think you're wired when you're a kid and a young adult growing up, that especially before you have kids, you realize it's not just about you, like I said before. But now I think my goals will be about everybody else, like giving back. And again, it goes back to that impact. I think my goals would be around shifting culture, changing a narrative. And if we look at like female specific, like the female game specifically now, there's so much, like, yes, it's come on so much, and we've gone so far, but there's still so much to be done. And I think my journey was full of stereotypes, stigmas, challenges, hurdles you had to overcome, barriers all the time, being told no, or like even in my role now, as we say, I want to speak to the boss, or I'll, like, where is he? Where is he? Like, what makes you think it's a he? So these things now push me forwards, and like I think I want to change that. Like, I want to make sure that the next generation don't have to experience what I experienced, and it's just the norm for women to take up this kind of space.
Yeah, I think we're definitely taking the right steps towards that, and hopefully it continues in not just football, but in all sports.
Yeah, definitely.
As well, like it's I know it's an unconscious bias people have lived in for.
It's
for
just
a long
society,
time.
and it's the way that I think the world is programmed. But it just takes people to keep challenging that norm and the narrative, and it's changing. It is changing.
What do you feel the biggest impact you've made is since you've got to Dubai?
That's a good question, isn't it? I think for me, the impacts that I'm proud of is probably the impressions on the people around me. And like, I'm big on human connection, like building relationships, that kind of thing. And they are the most important thing. So if you can positively influence people in that way, like the kids that come to Dubai and then say that when they're at Alliance, they feel like they belong, that's gold. Like, that's what we thrive for. Does it matter that they won this league or that game or they lost? No. But if they feel like that, then I've done my job. And I think those little things collectively, if people feel like that, then I'd be very proud of what we've achieved.
Yeah, it's an amazing story with what Alliance are doing, and I think what stood out to me about them was how big that when I started seeing them pop up on TikTok and that, it was just random. I just saw like people with pink football kits and like talking about football boots and dinosaurs and stuff like that. And I just see, give me my number. I want this number. I was thinking, no, like these. I was like,
it's a running theme at the club, right? The first thing they ask is, "Can I have this number? Can I have that number?"
I find it so wholesome. I was just looking at it thinking, I would have loved this when I was younger, like that kind of tight knit feeling, that feeling a part of something. And these kids, especially the young ones, they probably take it really seriously as well. They probably feel like professional footballers with the numbers and the shirt, name on their back, their kits.
They love it, and it's that buzz, and it's giving them those experiences that they're like memories that they'll cherish forever.
Yeah, it's it's unique, that kind of bond and relationship you can build with the young people. But yeah, I think as we start to wrap up, let's talk about let's I start with a bit of reflection. I think yeah. Obviously, I asked you name one good thing that happened this week, and then but then we got so into the other conversation. There's like a second part of the question,
Okay.
which is usually how did you make it happen? So yeah, how did you make that good thing happen? Going to the event, meeting loads of people.
Yeah, it was a colleague of mine. He brought the event to my attention, and then he was invited to go. And then I touched base with James, and it was something that was interesting to us. So we just wanted to be in and around people, like-minded people in the same room. All those kind of events are always like of value. So yeah, reached out, connected with James, and then James said, we're looking for a speaker. Would you be interested? So that's how I came about to be at that event where we met.
Yeah, actually, now that the event has come and gone and the dust has settled, and you were speaking and sharing your experiences, what was that like? Being sat up there talking about what you've gone through, talking about. Obviously, it wasn't to the extent of our conversation today, but
Yeah.
like your journey and sitting in front of people really taking in what you're saying. What was that like for you? And was that something you'd ever done before?
I have done it recently. Like, I have done it before a few times, but it's always a bit nerve-wracking because you don't know how it's received, or you don't know how questions will be asked. But I feel like the Jess that sat there 2 nights ago, or whenever it was different to even the Jess that was like a month ago. So when you reflect on yourself, and it makes you think, wow, like you're always changing, and your views probably always change. But it was nice to share, in the hope that someone in the room takes some value or some insight from what you said, and it helps them in their journey. I think that's probably why I do those things, if ever asked.
Of course. And another thing I really like to emphasize with young people as well is that I think growing up, me personally, I always thought adults were the finished product.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Same.
And like, I think when you become an adult, you quickly learn.
We're all just winging it, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think I really want to emphasize the point, and maybe I'd like you to emphasize the point, how it's a and maybe if any young people or anyone from Alliance ends up watching or listening to this, is we are always growing, we are always developing, we are always learning, whether it's under 10s or...
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, every day is a school day.
Yeah.
Like, you never stop learning or improving. And like I said before, if you think you have, then you're going to get to a point where you stand still. But yeah, well, I pinch myself sometimes, like the massive imposter syndrome. I think you better never stops.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're all just winging it, really.
And what do you think, what do you feel you've learned? This is like, it's a reflection, but it's like a bit of feedback.
Yeah.
What do you think you've learned or understood from, or gained or not gained from sitting down here and having this conversation with me today?
I think I really like the way that you always highlight that person first approach, and how important that is to build relationships and put people at the forefront of everything. I think that's the most powerful thing, and it brings me back to that all the time, because what happens is, when in my role, you have to get stuff done. So at times it can be relentless, and it's like, we need to make a decision, and the decision is for the good of the club, and it has to be bam, done. And not always are you able to think, you try to, but not always are you able to think about the people that it may affect. You would hope, like, 9 times out of 10, you make that decision based on that. But people are the most important thing. So you've brought me back around to that people first. It's always player centered, but how you can put each other at the forefront of what you do in order to make the experiences better. I
had an interesting conversation with a colleague yesterday, and he's a player care guy. He works in player care, and he was saying how you aren't your skills. Your skills are who you are is what makes your skills, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So for example, if we're talking something simple, football on the pitch, like someone that takes the ball and dribbles and tries to go past the defenders, like if you think of, like, that's not, he doesn't do that because he's good at dribbling or because he's this and that, she, but like they do that because of who they are, in terms of they're not afraid to give it a go and take a risk and make a mistake. And I just thought that was a really powerful insight of linking like how you are on the pitch to who you are off it, and how who you are kind of builds the kind of player you are on the pitch.
Definitely.
So I just found that like a really powerful, in fact, someone that's like willing to take a shot, or someone that's willing to put their body on the line.
Yeah, it's all transferable into life skills.
Exactly.
So when I was a player, I was creative, like have a creative mind. You look at other players, like kids at Alliance, I look and I think they have winning mentality. They never give up. They have grit. It's part of who they are. Right.
And I think it's so important to hit home to those young people, how like, are you a great leader on the pitch, for example? Just pulling out an example. You could be a great leader at a workplace.
Exactly.
You could be a great leader at this. You could, or you're very creative. You could be really good at doing this or that.
How can you use that?
Yeah, and I think it's so easy to like separate the two when they're a lot more linked, and that was like a real eye opener for me. I didn't think about this until I had this conversation yesterday. So.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. It's what it's like when you're a school kid, like you might have a preference to like art or maths, or
exactly, that
doesn't go away. Like, it is you.
I mean, it isn't to say if you're a centre back you're going to be a construction worker, or if you're a striker you're going to be a whatever. But it's like, and like, I think this goes for different sports and different things you do in life as well. Like, I think it's a very malleable concept.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jess, thank you so much for speaking to me and sharing your journey. I think it's been a really fascinating and insightful conversation, and I can't wait to look back through this, bring it out, and yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, people, it's been me, T. I always muck up the intro because I'll be like, oh yeah, welcome back, and then I'll introduce myself, and then here I am like correcting
do it
that.
now again.
Go
for it.
It's been me, T. Like another episode locked in, Life in Sport. Like, subscribe, comment. Big love, people. See you soon.